And in the meantime, a gauge of the health of the South African manufacturing sector has fallen further. The ABSA Purchasing Managers Index had already fallen below the neutral 50-point mark, which means that production from South African factories is contracting. Now it's fallen further by almost 2 points to reach just below 48 points in June. ABSA says the most disappointing results was the index tracking expected business condition in around 6 months' time. That index fell by full 10 points to 55.7. The index is based on surveyed responses to a number of questions. It means respondents still think business conditions in South Africa will get better, but they're less optimistic than before. It's yet another sign that the positivity around the South African economy seen at the beginning of the year has faded. ABSA says the return of load shedding may have rather been a specific dampening factor in June. Companies focused on the export market also have to deal with the trade war between the US and the rest of the world. July is National Savings Month, and this is the time where members of the public are encouraged to save money. South Africa is regarded as a poor savings nation, and most people are highly indebted, often defaulting on their repayments. Is this a problem persistent, and what can be done to bring relief to the consumers? We're joined by Gerald Mwandiambira, who is the CEO of the National Savings Institute. Thank you very much for coming to our program.
Always a pleasure.
Well, Gerald, this seems to be an ongoing problem regarding South Africa being regarded a poor savings nation. Now, we've been talking about this for a number of years. Has anything changed so far?
I think we've had a few changes in the last couple of years in that a lot of people who were in bad shape in terms of credit can no longer qualify for credit. So you've had a cleanse of the system, so to speak, in that a lot of defaulters, a lot of people who were just bad for credit have gone out. Unfortunately, the household debt to income ratio is still well over 70%, which means that we're still very much highly indebted. And some research numbers say we spend over 100% of our income every month, which means that we are still getting further into debt. There is a bit of positivity in that because of all the hardships, because of all the challenges people are facing, savings is starting to come back to top of mind in terms of what people need to do for the future.
There was an argument regarding how much liquidity do South Africans have. For example, if somebody were to finance a project of 10,000 rand, they wouldn't have the money readily available in their accounts. They'll have to do it through a loan. And I remember one parent was asking their son, he didn't have 25,000 rands for lobola that he had to pay. He said, but we've been working for 10 years. How come you don't have 25,000 rand? This is the problem regarding the positive balance in the account.
Well, definitely. I mean, one research study does suggest that people who earn as much as 40,000 rand a month cannot sustain a financial shock of just 5,000 rand. Financial shock being 5,000 rand you didn't budget for. It means people are pretty much living according to the edge. And that's really what Savings Month is about. It's a media campaign in which we partner with various institutions, this year with ABSA for the next 3 years. And we're trying to get a message across to say, save before you spend. This year's particular message is around employer-assisted saving. Now, we're not saying employers must pay people more money. No. We're simply saying that the person who has the capacity to save is someone who handles money at some point. And because there's an employer and an employee relationship, there's money flow. So we want to have a situation where your employer makes you pause around your savings habit. So maybe they offer you a 13th check to say, do you want to go into January happy, or do you want to go into January miserable? Or they ask you a question, do you want to contribute more towards your retirement saving? Or the other question is simply, do they offer you a wellness day? And I'm not talking a wellness day where they're trying to do research to see who's in debt. I'm saying a wellness day where they say, we're going to pay for you to find a financial planning professional of your choice so that you can actually just look in the mirror and start sorting out your finances. Because ultimately, financially stressed employees affect the business.
It seems like the employers are not reading between the lines because they don't have the agenda and the program of the speeches of these financial coaches. Do you know what they do, some of them? They sell products, they sell insurance policies, they sell funeral policies. Now let's get to that issue. Why are South Africans so much obsessed with advertising funeral policies to members of the public?
I think indeed, SABC is a non-profit organization, and part of the reason we exist is for consumer education, because we have no agenda. We're neutral. Savings Month is all about saying, learn about saving, learn about investing, know the risks, the pros and cons. Unfortunately, many employers try and shortcut the system. Instead of getting a neutral body or neutral persons to offer advice which has no sales pitch at the end, they go and call companies whose main agenda is to sell. And what they do is they say they're giving you financial education when in the meantime, the only objective they have is to sell you something. And that's the biggest challenge. So now you have this distrust between employees and the employers and the whole industry in terms of saying, when someone is saying they're giving advice, are they really talking to me from a position of wanting to uplift me financially, or are they talking to me from a position of uplifting themselves financially in terms of making money?
Let's talk about alternative financial strategies that employees can employ. For example, the exchange-traded funds. Are we seeing an uptick in the interest of some workers in generating some interest out of their savings regarding that kind of a tool?
Okay, you just mentioned something, exchange-traded funds. 90% of people watching are saying, what's that? And that's one of the biggest problems, perhaps, which we also have as one of our agendas as SABC in terms of advocacy, in terms of saying, let's give people what they want. And as much as certain instruments are popular, many people are just simply not appealed to those particular investments. I think one of the misnomers you get in the public in general is that black people do not understand risk. They do. They go into Ponzi schemes and they do stuff which is highly risky, knowing that they want a high return. We just simply maybe need to start talking more alternative types of investments so that people may be more appealed to understand things. Alternative investments can be something as simple as agri-projects, animals, property. These are simple concepts, but this is what people tend to want. And as SABC, we're also saying that let's spread the investment horizon. Let's not stick to just what is traditional and what has worked for a generation which is in the past. The new generation, the millennials, really want instant returns. They're willing to accept risk, but at the same time, they need to be taught how to save and invest.
You're talking about instant returns, and this reminds me of Triple M. As you are mentioning, South Africans love risk. They're talking Bitcoin. Everybody is preaching about it. This instantaneous attitude of thinking that you will make money overnight, what do you have to say about that?
I think it's driven by guilt. I think because people have not saved, when they think saving, they think big amounts, and they're operating from a position of guilt or wanting to replace what they perceive as having lost over time. That's one reason. The second reason you have this instant desire is that people are into social media. And social media, the grams, Instagram, WhatsApp, it's full of pictures of things which people are probably just taking pictures of. But the people who are watching those pictures don't realize that this is just a facade. It's for show. And now you're having a scenario where people are trying to live those lives. We need to have more responsible social media broadcast in terms of our celebrities and public personalities that actually, this isn't reality. And a lot of the time we're not getting that message. So the next generation, the millennials, are in a big, difficult position where they want to show the world they've succeeded, but they don't want to work.
Gerald, you're cutting short. Times are hard now. We have seen the petrol prices increasing, and everybody's going to be affected, whether we like it or not. So what is your best advice right now for South Africans?
My best advice for all South Africans is that saving is not an option to paying off debt. Saving must happen all the time. If you lose your job and you're not saving, you're going to be far worse off. So save before you spend. And anybody who receives any income, no matter how small, can save. And don't save out of guilt. Save out of ability and desire to want to go forward. So save as little as 10, 50, 100 rand. They say that once you've done something 21 times, it becomes part of your character. It's habit forming. So let's start small and grow it over time. Don't ever look down on small beginnings.
Right, Gerald, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for making time. I wish we had more time. We will talk about other issues, but it's still Savings Month, so keep your cell phone on. We'll call you anytime.
Thank you very much.
All right, Gerald Mwandiambira, who is the CEO of the Savings Institute of South Africa, talking to us about Savings Month right here on SABC News.